Hare Krishna. Jai. Jai Sri Radhe. Okay. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Taksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, greetings from the Super Soul Farm. And we'd like to say something about Sri Radha. The class may be a little challenging for this reason, is that I did give a class at the Serenity Retreat Center in New York, that Param Vaishnav Adi Purush. It rivals the Bhakti Center. I mean, it's not as big, it's just one floor, but that one floor. And we had such a nice program there. So many of you heard, so me speak, or some have. So what I want to do is just see where it goes and say something maybe a little different. I had some notes, and of course I can't find them. That's okay. So, there's different subjects I'd like to cover. One is to talk about kind of the qualification. Anyway, let me just start and see where it goes. One thing I was kind of meditating on is the challenge that Prabhupada had in speaking. The most difficult thing to do, and someone who's is speak to a mixed audience, because to have an effect when you're speaking or doing a drama or any type of creative thing, you have to create one mind, because there's more than just an intellectual input in speaking, especially about spiritual topics. There's a emotional result, and the emotional result is when you create one mind. And in fact, in terms of Krishna consciousness, in the presentation of rasa, one of the fundamental prerequisites is that it's presented in such a way that the audience becomes unified. We have that experience, and it's really great, isn't it? When you're in a class and you just, you're hearing, and it's almost like you understand, the speaker knows that everyone is hearing the same thing, and the audience is feeling that. Or in a kirtan, it's that liberation from the limited concept of I. The limited concept of I. It's not impersonal, but the limited concept of I is I am in the center. And that conception that I am in the center divorces us from the soul and the feelings of love. So spiritual life means to transcend that false ego. That's the beginning. That's why that verse in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad said, Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata guru. for one who has implicit faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, the imports of the Vedas are revealed. But what is the import of the Vedas? The common theme of the Vedas and everything that's presented there is to transcend this limited concept of I, which is the false ego, the false conception that I am the center. And I sometimes describe it as subject and object, that you see everything as an object for yourself, and you see yourself as the subject in the sense that I am the agent, I am the enjoyer, everything is for me. And that's the narcissistic, it's the exact, Eric Fromm wrote a book called The Art of Loving. And part of that book was transcending this concept that we see the world through our desires. So the spiritual life is primarily meant to lift us from that conception, relieve us from the conception. And according to the Vaishnava tradition, according to the Bhart Muni's Natya Shastra, one of the main ways to do that is by drama or presentation of stories that present, the proper emotions, poetry, etc. And when the audience hears it, they have a shared feeling that helps them kind of transcend this. So I'm just saying I'm not going to speak the same class because other people heard it, but I do want to do the same subjects. And what I want to explain is I'm actually going to write on this, the challenge and genius of Prabhupada in presenting Krishna Lila. Because who was Prabhupada speaking to? There was no one else that had the challenge of a mixed audience as Prabhupada, because he was speaking to the world. He was speaking to people of all different qualifications, all different frames of reference. And as I said, and if you understand, if any experience speaking, more important than speaking the truth is having the truth understood. And you have to speak in the language of those people. So therefore, Prabhupada had to present the essence. The Krishna consciousness is meant to understand Radha and Krishna. And at the same time, he had to make sure that they didn't misunderstand it. And it's so easy to misunderstand Radha and Krishna. And we explained that when we were studying the Shikshastakam, the 20th chapter, and it's describing when Lord Chaitanya, he understood that his external mission, not superficial mission, but why he came for others he understood from Advaita Acharya's cryptic sonnets, a very beautiful, indirect way. No one could understand, but he understood that that Advaita called him, and Advaita gave a kind of analogy. You worship a deity, you call the deity, then the person who calls the deity can put the deity to sleep. He gave that analogy. And then he also gave some analogy about, everybody's mad in the market. There's no market more. The market is flooded. So he understood. And then it said his internal reason, which was to experience the mood of Srimati Radharani, to experience the mood of his topmost devotee at the height of her love, which is her mood of separation. That was his mission. Our mission is the same as Lord Chaitanya's in a basic way. I always whenever I speak of Lord Chaitanya, I kind of tongue-in-cheek say, God has a problem. And it's the same problem we have. he's not a devotee. So God's story, it's the story of God becoming a devotee. And we also mentioned when we ever discuss these situations, the spiritual world cannot be confined or dictated by time and space because the laws of God are under him. They don't subject him. So God has events, but those events are eternal. So in one sense, there's a first time that Krishna met Radharani. But is there a time we ever met? The time that they ever never? Yeah, there's a time where Krishna first met Radharani. Otherwise, we wouldn't be complete without that experience. That's why we also describe by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that God must be forgetful. He must be all-knowing and forgetful at the same time. Tarejite tadnaijati, tadure tatantike. He walks, he doesn't walk. He's near and he's far. He must have both at the same time. If he's not all-knowing, he's not God. He's not forgetful, he's not God. Why, if he's not forgetful, he can't be God? Because there's no surprise. And if there's no surprise, there's no drama. And if there's no drama, there's no ras. Krishna can't be all-knowing. He actually thinks that Srimati Radharani has left him. I told the story of how glorious Radhakund is, that Krishna bathes in Radhakund and his garments is wet. It's a little, I don't know, erotic or something, but they say the most beautiful body is a body with wet clothes. As when Krishna comes out of the after killing the Kaliya demon, Krishna's friends died drinking the water on the bank of the Jamuna. They died. And did Krishna know they died? No. He felt it. He had that experience of this deep love for his friends. And then his compassionate glance woke them up. So what is the experience of his friends when they wake up? Krishna saved their life. And what is Krishna's experience? Anyway, he came out after all that. And they're cheering that Krishna's on top of the Kaliya serpent and dancing, and they're watching, and then he's engulfed in the Kaliya serpent that only his peacock feather can be shown. And for 48 minutes, he's in the coils of the serpent. How are they feeling? What is the extent of their love? And then he bursts out, and then he swims to the shore. So Krishna comes out, but he's bathing. His chest is dark blue. And Radharani walks by and sees his chest and then sees her own reflection in that chest. And because she's at the height of emotion, then her discrimination is so overshadowed. If that's God's love, is Radharani God's love? What is the intensity of that love? And what is the emotion of that love? And how can there be discriminate? So it's so sensitive. At the height of her love, she's sitting on Krishna's lap. Madhu Mangala is chasing away the bee. Is chasing away the bee and says, Madhu is gone, which means bee. It means spring. It means honey. It means Krishna. And just hearing that, boom, she starts to cry that Krishna is gone, even though she's sitting on his lap. That's called prema vaichitya, a love that's so high that even though Krishna is there, you do not see him. And of course, in our understanding of these very, very high subjects, I don't know why I'm starting so high without tattva. I feel it's not proper, but this is the way I'm going. And then the object in separation, the object of your love, goes deep within your heart. And therefore, as we're separated from God only by consciousness, and what to speak of God, seeing that in separation, that I've entered into Radharani's heart. I'm even closer to her. And it's not just mental. It's there. Krishna, that's Krishna's main instruction to the gopis through Uddhava. I am there in my bhava manifestation. I'm there in my bhava manifestation. The separation is consciousness. So Radharani becomes angry. It's one of the stages of prema. She becomes angry and she leaves. And Krishna is not sarvagya. I know what will happen in the end. She'll come back. Otherwise, there's no emotion, there's no drama. He's actually thinking that she's left. And he becomes despondent. He stops eating. He's on the bank of Radhakund. And then his confidential associate, Subal, Priyanarmasaka, gives some advice. Or maybe it was Sridham, Radharani's brother, that you go back and just explain to her what happened. It's obvious what happens. He goes back. You understand, my chest was wet. There was a reflection. I wasn't with anybody else. And she said, liar. What a ridiculous excuse. I caught you red-handed. You were there. I caught you. And then you make such a foolish excuse. Get out of here. I will never see you again. And another days went and Krishna's not eating. And I make the joke, it's a real existential crisis, because if God exists, if God dies, nothing exists. So he's just, and then, then his friend says, okay, I know the psychology of women. Just apologize. He said, but I didn't do anything wrong. I know, don't worry. We're dealing with this emotion. It's just, you got to deal with the emotion. Don't deal with the reality. Just admit you made a mistake and promise not to do it again. So he goes to Radha and says, I'm really sorry. I made a mistake. I just, what can I do? Chandravali, she's always trying to allure me. In a moment of weakness, I was with someone else, and I'm really deeply sorry. Oh, you come to me, you lied to me, and now you come and tell the truth. Get out. And then, of course, the story is because Radhakund's liquid Radharani, he worships Radhakund, and she's pacified. But anyway, I didn't follow my usual strategy, so let's go back a little bit. And I have to go back to Bhakti Siddhanta. And because our philosophy, and I really feel to be empowered, I have to discuss how sacred these subjects are and why they have to be dealt with in a very careful way. And from studying the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, and Shivaram Swami wrote about 25 pages of this, because he's written very esoteric and deep stuff. And there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, Vakridatam Vrajavadubir cha Vishnu, that if you hear the subjects of Radha Krishna with faith, they will destroy the disease of lust, which means you don't have to be free from that, but you have to have faith. So the question is, what is faith? And I want to discuss what is faith. And faith means two things. It's an experience and it's an understanding. Those are the two qualities of faith. If you think why are we here in the Krishna consciousness movement? Why are we here in the Krishna consciousness movement? Because we had an experience and we had an understanding that suits that experience. Hari Kirtan Prabhu, welcome. Nice to see you. Because I just remembered in your book, you made such a brilliant point, which I appreciated. Leela, I should also bring you a copy of Hari Kirtan's Bhagavad Gita book. It's really great. And so he described one aspect of faith that I really like, is that rather than seeing the Gita, I won't express it as well as he has, but something, rather than seeing the Gita through our world, we see the world through the Gita. It's a beautiful concept. And that in Krishna consciousness, as expert communicators, we have to remove the obstacles that prevent people from having that experience. But that's our experience. That's one experience of faith. When we start seeing through the Shastra, we're open to a whole world of reality. And we know that. I know that from coming to Krishna consciousness. I have two brothers, and my father once gave me the highest compliment in his own Brooklyn manner. He said, I have three sons, and you're the only one that's head screwed on right. But what does that mean, screwed on right? And you look around, we have knowledge, and what is that knowledge? We've gotten a lens of Shastra. So that's one thing that's really, but that reality gives us that Shastriya Shraddha. We have faith in Shastra because we've looked through it, and we've seen things from the perspective of diet to death, to social considerations, to the world, to how we live, to how we elevate our consciousness. But that's one thing, and the other is experience. You have an experience of transcendence when you come to Krishna consciousness. That's called the Bhakti Lata Bij. Brahmanda Brahmate, Konya Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Pasadi Pai, Bhakti Lata Bij. We have the Bhakti Lata Bij. We have the seed of devotion. And what is the seed? It's that faith, the faith of this thing to serve Krishna is a worthy goal above any other goal. And the way, to the extent you live your life that way is to the extent you have faith. And I'm just thinking of this Adi Purush and by himself making this beautiful center. It's not a material calculation. You don't take out a lease for 5 years for $9,000 and spend $200,000 and think it's going to be. But he did it for Krishna. There was some kind of experience he has in his life. We have a religious experience. So this is what faith means, and therefore what happens is we read the Bhagavatam in 9 cantos, and we get knowledge and we get experience. If we don't have that experience, then if we don't have that knowledge, we'll see the pastimes of Radha and Krishna as mythological, and then we'll see it as a romance mythology. So that'll have some licentious view. And if we don't have devotion in our hearts, if we don't have the experience of devotion, we won't see devotion in those pastimes. We'll see it as mundane. So this is the faith that we need. And if we have this lens, when we see the pastimes and we come to the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, it will invoke that experience of devotion. And I have the experience of being in Vrindavan. When you have the experience of being in Vrindavan, and some of you will come, and you'll come for a week, or you'll come for 2 weeks, and it's not just you're living there casually, but you're performing bhakti, and you get that experience of bhakti. then that becomes your lens. And when you see things, it invokes devotion in you. And when you'll see Radha and Krishna's pastimes and hear about Radha and Krishna's pastimes, before it triggers in within you your prejudice of what those pastimes were, what those forms were in your life, it'll inspire your devotion. And if you have the right understanding, and that's why, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is a summary of the Bhagavatam, and I've watched what it does. It Narada Muni's journey, bhakti, bhakti. From different levels, you're studying bhakti, 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 so that when you come to this extremely high subject of Radha and Krishna's pastimes, you'll have enough experience that actually you'll see that as bhakti. And therefore, in the 20th chapter says, those who are extremely fortunate by doing this, they will relish that the things that are born of the heart of Lord Chaitanya in that height of Radharani's feelings, which in our material conception, there'll be ignorance and passion. Because he's anxiety, there's jealousy, there's anger, overcome with emotion, but they're born of ecstatic love. So therefore, in our tradition, there's a caution because of our being in this material world, each a dvesha system born out of desire and hate. We desire to be superior, and we hate others who challenge it. But because of that, and because the sex desire and the sex fulfillment is the material manifestation of fulfilling this coming to the material world, and we have that attraction to it, it's a history of abuse of those pastimes to invoke passion and ignorance in the nature of spirituality, which to extent at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur had ruined the reputation of the Hare Krishna, of Lord Chaitanya's movement. So Bhakti Siddhanta was very, very cautious. Very cautious. So that has to be there in the philosophy. And also, Radha and Krishna and the glories of that has to be in the philosophy. They both have to be there. And I think the genius of Prabhupada is he spoke to everyone. And within his teachings, you can find everything you need at whatever level you're at. And somehow, while reading it, the teachings that are appropriate to you will be generally, if you're sincere and you read in a prayerful way and in the shelter of Guru and Krishna, then the instructions of Prabhupada will be there from you from ABC to Gopi Bhav. And it's amazing. It's amazing that you can get what you need, and what you need will be emphasized to you. But let me just put in there, so I feel a little bit more comfortable speaking these pastimes, just the beautiful writing of Bhakti Siddhanta when he is in his mood to protect us. It's so heavy. I'll read it. To be able to observe the lofty position of Srimati Radharani and her confidential associates is not within the realm of the common people, especially and only those who engage constantly in intimate, confidential, and eternal loving service to her understand the sacred truth. Conversely, no one, for that matter, can fathom the mysteries and esoteric implications of such pastimes except her confidential associates. Now here he gets really heavy. Hold on to your seats. the day when our link with the material world is limited to the barest necessities. And furthermore, when our trivial opinions, concocted austerities, pious works, so-called knowledge and mystic powers are considered worthless like straw. When our worship of Narayan in his mood of majesty is not relishable in the least. At that time, when we are not inclined at all to be outspoken in the confidential topics of divine pastimes like the rasa dance, only then will we be fit candidates to receive such confidential information. The service to Lordship Sri Sri Radha Govinda is not expressible in common language. Come in. Come in. I vote. Okay. If you want to hear too, we're also having something here. It's up to you what your schedule is. No, that's good. Put the flowers there. The service to the Lordships, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, is not expressible in common language. The use of the words swakiya, parakiya usually become intermingled with our own intense residual desires of sense gratification. It is for this reason, due to the lack of qualified people, that the divine pastimes of Sri Sri Radha Krishna cannot be discussed, heard, and understood by the common people of this world. And in saying there is very few qualified people is not an exaggeration. That being said, Prabhupada gave us the Krishna book first. He gave us the Nectar of Devotion and Krishna book first. Specifically for the reason that it's the goal, and he wanted to make sure that we hear it in the proper way. And that was his genius with Krishna book, that when you read the pastimes with the gopis, he has a way of, this is communication, of seeing our frame of reference and couching anything in a philosophy, basically, which is just a summary of the purports, couching it in a way that we won't understand it as mundane or mythological. But he gave the Krishna book first. I'm also thinking, too, that on this day, we get special mercy of Srimati Radharani to talk about these things in a more direct way. Just like I believe it's the tradition in Bhaktisiddhanta's mission. I'm not sure. I know it's there in Vrindavan, that on this day, the deities in the temple, you can see Srimati Radharani's lotus feet. And then I always loved the story, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, where there was, and if you ever go to Vrindavan, if you want to see what Vrindavan looked like 5,000 years ago, I'll take you there one day. If you want to see, on the edge of Vrindavan is a city called Bharatpur, and it has the Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary. And I never thought I'd ever go to the Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary. It seemed like a tourist thing. But somehow this king who was hunting birds or something blocked up the water, made wetlands, that all the birds of Asia somehow come there in the winter. And you walk down this path, it's very big. You walk down this path, and it's kind of like you're walking down a path, and there's like a trees, and then there's like an opening, and then there's trees and opening, and you're looking, and there's billions of colorful birds, and they're just so loud. And you say, this was Krishna's pastimes. This was Krishna's pastimes. Vrindavan means the birds and the trees and the flowers and herds of Nilgaya. So this king of Bharatpur because the kings, of course, they were affected by the preaching. And he came to Vrindavan and he did Dandavat Parikram of Radhakund. And that is humble, because you don't know what's on that floor there, and it's a narrow path, and all the pilgrims are walking, and sometimes it's wet. And you do Dandavat Parikram. You did that, right?
Yeah, so we did it around Radhakund.
You did it around Radhakund. Okay. And Dandavat like a rod. These are kind of mudras. When you pay your obeisances, your head goes down, your heart goes up. It puts you into consciousness. When you go down flat, it's the spiritual consciousness of I am inferior, which which is great in love. That's the only way that consciousness, it's not good materially, but in love, inferior in the sense that your desires become the agent. I'm no longer in love, you're no longer the agent. You move by the desires of your beloved. And that's what bhakti is. Krishnanu Shilanam. Anukulyena. Krishnanu Shilanam. You want with your heart, Krishnanu Shilanam, that your Shilanam, your activities, Anu, follow Krishna's desire. You want that. And that's love. You want to live in a world of love. You don't want to live in a world of narcissism, where you see the world according to your own desires. So he was doing that. And it's mind, body, and words. People get realizations from doing that. Mind, body, words. You're praying, your mind is absorbed. And his followers were some brahmacharis of Bhakti Siddhanta, they walked by. And when they walked by, they saw him and they came to Bhakti Siddhanta and they said, this is amazing. Look at this king. He's so humble. Bhakti Siddhanta said, why is he doing that? Because he loves Krishna. Bhakti Siddhanta said, I'm not impressed. What? They couldn't say it. And then he told them why. He said, we only worship Krishna because Sri Radha loves him so much. Jai Radhe. Jai Radhe. That's Vrindavan. Anaya Radito Nunam Bhagavan Harir Ishvara. We know the story. His name's not mentioned in the letter that Narayan Maharaj wrote to Satyaraj when he asked that question. It's like 20 pages, but the basis of it is Sukadeva Goswami is Radharani's parrot, so she's in prem. And when you're in prem, it's emotional state. So you're affected. We can see what is the weakness of us. Our hearts are not moved. I know a sadhu who somehow he was in his ashram and it was too much for him and he blooped and he went to Govardhan. Then his guru brought him back. But he told me when he went to Govardhan, every time he saw a devotee, he cried. Every time he heard the Bhagavatam, he cried. Every time he saw Govardhan Hill, he cried. That our hearts, it says it's steel framed if it's not moved. So what if you're a confidential associate of Krishna? How will your hearts be moved? That's what our chanting should be. Hare Krishna. That should our chanting be. Our heart should be moved. It should be moved. So the heart being moved. So just a little bit Radharani Tattva, and then we may have a little Leela. Little Radharani Tattva. Our Tattva is very beautiful. Krishna has a Sarup Shakti. Krishna is Shaktiman, the possessor of energy. And then there's a Shakti, and Radha is the Shakti. So without Radha, There's no Krishna without Radha. Krishna means Radha and Krishna, and he also separates to experience the love, his love. But she's the Shakti. So without Radha, it's a flower without fragrance, without form, without shape. So she's the Shakti. And she expands. And why does Shakti expand? Why does energy expand? Energy expands to serve the source of the energy. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and his Shaktis, Parasya Shaktai, Vividaya Suyate, they expand to serve him. And ultimately, to serve him means to love him. And he has that position because he loves everyone. So when he expands, you have three things that are required. There has to be existence, that's Sandhini Shakti. There has to be cognition, that's Chit Shakti. And there has to be pleasure, that's Ladini Shakti. So that Ladini Shakti, the essence of it, according to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the essence of that Ladini Shakti is Krishna Prema. And what is Krishna Prema? It's the intense desire of love. What do you want? What's the nice name for the gopi? Kinkari. Kinkari means what you want, I will do. And the feeling of that. We are consciousness which reaches its fruition in love. That's our satisfaction. Without love, you can have power and control, but there's no happiness. Everyone here is looking for happiness, and happiness is love. If that's the guiding principle here, why should it not exist in the ultimate realm? So that when it expands, when that bhakti expands, because it starts out, prema starts out as shraddha, that kind of experience or faith that's put into your hearts, the appreciation for God. And when it grows, through all the stages, it comes to prema. Comes to bhava, prem encore, it's like a sprout of that love. It comes to prema, sandrandana visheshatma. It's when that love is so thick. Sandra means like metal. You can't, when the consciousness is just so focused in love that there's nothing else. It's like the bhava is the sun rays and prema is the sun. And when it's so thick, nothing can pierce it. That's called prema. And then prema has different stages. And when prema goes to its height, it's called mahabhav. And Radharani is Mahabhav Sarup. So Radharani is the form of bhakti. Bhakti is an energy, and when that energy takes form, and energy takes form. So if you want to understand, this is something I kind of came up with, but I think it's a fact. If you want to understand Radha, you have to understand the relationship between pleasure, happiness, and beauty. Pleasure is happiness, and happy is expressed by giving the best. So wherever there's love, there's beauty. That's why bhakti, the two main things are food and flowers. Because they're the things that most, why Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, they sell flowers because people want to give form to their love. So that when people experience something sensually, it's not a sensual experience primarily, it's an emotional experience. You experience people's love, they try to please you. So Radharani has the full capacity to please Krishna. And therefore, we're not interested in being with Krishna because we want Krishna's pleasure. We're interested in bringing Radha and Krishna together because she has the full capacity to please. And then all her qualities are mentioned as the supreme. Her fragrance, she's fragrant to please. Her clothes, she's a great dresser to please. She's a great singer to please. She's the best cook to please. And then I love the form, the luster on her body puts gold in a painful situation. It's to please. In her ornament, she has avaram and alankar. Avaram are the markings the woman has. Alankar is the jewelry. It's all composed of Mahabhav. It's the Mahabhav Sarup. It's not different than her. That's why if you're in a temple and you have that faith and you get Radharani's necklace, it's Radharani. It's worshipable because it's for the pleasure of Krishna. And therefore, that's why in our movement, the Hare Krishna movement, this development of Seva Bhav is essential. Because dasya, the mood of service, is the pot in which all other relationships are there. So without the mood of service, with Guru Pada Shraya, for example, taking shelter of the Vaishnavas, serving the mission, as Narottam Das Thakur says, when you dive deep into the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you arise on the shore of Radha Krishna. Because when you serve someone, it gives you the potency to understand their desire. So if Lord Chaitanya desire is to have the mood of Radharani, then the service of Lord Chaitanya will empower you to understand his mind, which is also our aspirations. It's our aspirations, because that's what Lord Chaitanya came to give. Anarpita charim charat karunaya vatirna kalo samarpyatam unatoj valam rasva swabhakti swayam. Okay. I see Leela's here. Leela, do you know the story of when Radharani first met Krishna?
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances. Yes, it's actually related with the today's Radhastami, the appearance day of Radharani. I mean, there are many instances, there are many first meetings of Radha and Krishna in Purva Raga when they're more grown up, they meet again, and then when they haven't spoken personally, but they just see each other from a distance. But if we take the Leela, the Goloka Leela, which Krishna brings with Srimati Radhika to this realm, to the Bhauma Leela, which attracts all the souls, their meeting is actually happens right after Radhastami, quite soon, some few days after Radhastami, because of the, actually it's very mystical. The whole thing is very unusual, because Radharani's appearance is very, very mystical. And it's said that Vrishabhanu and Kirtida, the mother and father of Srimati Radharani, they were really wanting to have a daughter. They already had a son, and it was Sridama. And but they wanted to have a daughter, and it comes from a previous yuga when they were incarnated in Satya Yuga, and they really wanted to have a daughter, and they had a desire to serve the goddess Lakshmi, to please and serve the consort of Lord Vishnu. So they started performing severe austerities, so severe, I mean, they got married. And as soon as they got married, instead of like, usually people get married and they go on honeymoon, these two, Sudharma, his name was, and I forgot the Kirtida's name in the previous in Satya Yuga. But instead of going on honeymoon, they were like, okay, now we can do it. because now we can get this service. Now let's go and do the tapas. So they got married. The second day after the marriage, they go to the forest and they do this crazy, severe austerity. So severe that Lord Brahma stops everything he does and shows up in front of them and says, okay, you stop now, because it's like, it's unbearable what you do. Like, what do you want? And then they say, well, we want to please and serve and dedicate our whole life to the consort of Lord Vishnu, to Sri Lakshmi Ji. We want to, if it's possible, we want to have her as our daughter. And Lord Brahma was shocked. He said, usually when severe austerities are going on and I have to come, there is always a list of things that I have to deliver. And I'm used to that. So I was ready for that. But you don't want nothing. You just want to serve the Lakshmi. That's an unusual situation in the universe. He said, so because you pleased me so much by your service attitude without wanting anything, and instead of like asking something from me, you actually want to serve the Lord and his internal energy. I'm gonna bless you with having not just Lakshmi as your daughter, but Maha Lakshmi, Adi Purna Lakshmi, who is Radhika, the original personality from who thousands of billions of Lakshmis go and expand in Vaikunthas. You will have her as your daughter, but not right now. You have to wait. So then, by the time then they continuously lived in this meditation, and for not one yuga, for few yugas, they just waited and waited. When this day will come, then they were born as Vrishabhanu and Kirtida, and they were born in Braja in a very glorious family of Vaishyas. I mean, they were kings, and it said that Vrishabhanu and they had their village, their place in Raval. At the time when Nanda Maharaj was based in Gokul, there are two villages not far apart, Gokul and Raval. And Raval and Vrishabhanu, he actually surpassed Nanda Maharaj in amount of cows. It said that Vrishabhanu Maharaj had 11 lakhs of cows. 1 lakh is 100,000. He had 11 lakhs of cows, and Nanda Maharaj had only 9. So in some way, like the Vrishabhanu Maharaj was like a higher, and that would become a big point of jokes between Radha and Krishna when they grow up as well, when Krishna would pose himself as the king. But anyway, so, and then Vrishabhanu and Kirtida, they have this meditation, so they perform austerities in this lifetime again, in this Braj area, in this beautiful place of Raval. And Raval is amazing. And actually today at 7 a.m. I watched also, a friend of mine did live. Every year in Raval, in that beautiful place, they do at 7 a.m. Abhishek of Srimati Radharani, the place where she actually appeared, where the whole thing happened. And later on, when she grew up, she moved to Barshana, but Raval is still there. And it's not far from Dauji and Gokul. It's used to be on the bank of Jamuna. Yamuna has moved a little bit away now. But when you're in Raval, you are just surrounded by fields, beautiful forest, little small village nearby. And from the top of the Raval, from the top of the temple roof, you can see a Kunda and Yamuna from afar. And and it's very, very peaceful. And it's extremely beautiful. And it's the only place in whole Braj where they have installed around 10 years ago a small deity of Radharani, which is crawling, a baby, newborn Radha, beautiful, beautiful, newborn, bigger than a human-sized baby, like a deity of Radha. So they do beauty, and it's an amazing place to visit. It's an amazing place to just be. Hardly any sounds of cars, still now. Nothing, no sounds. It's just birds, temple bells, and the beautiful Radha Krishna. So there was the place where was their palace. So Vrishabhanu and Kirtida, they do this penances. And then because they want a child, they want a daughter. So one morning after they finished a certain fast, Vrata, Vrishabhanu, he went to take bath on Jamuna. And as he came to the shore of Jamuna, there he saw a huge golden, unbelievably big, 1,000-petal lotus floating in the river. And that lotus, as he was standing, when he saw the lotus, his body started shivering and his hair stood on end. And his right side started shivering. He felt many auspicious signs. And then this huge lotus flower started floating toward him, and it was so effulgent. It was like still dark in the morning before Mangalarati, but the whole lotus flower has the whole river and the whole sky was shining golden, like at noontime. That much sun was shining. Actually, Bhanu is the sun. It means the dynasty of the servant of the sun. So she came effulgent, golden like a sun. This golden lotus flower, as it came closer to Vrishabhanu, he saw in the center, the lotus had this like kind of a stage, like a big round flat podium, I don't know, like a thing. So on this thing, a small baby girl was floating, and that baby girl was so divinely beautiful that Vrishabhanu's eyes filled with tears. He started crying, and he touched this girl, he held, and he realized that our desire has now become fulfilled. This is the daughter with us. She just came. She came to us like this mystically. So he took this small baby girl on his lap, and he felt her. She was so soft like butter. He was afraid to press her to his chest because he was afraid that her limbs were so soft. He had never touched anything as soft. She had a full grown, already hair, had full of beautiful curly hair around. They were not long enough, and they surrounded her beautiful golden face, and it looked like many bumblebees roaming around. And he got scared. He started shooing the bumblebees away because he thought, what is this? But actually, it was Radharani's curls. And she had a beautiful, beautiful lips and eyes. But the only problem with her was, well, he didn't find it a problem. He thought, she's so beautiful, it's not a problem. But her eyes, her eyelids, she didn't have eyes opening. Like it was completely shut. The whole skin was grown into one piece. She had no eyes. She was fully blind. And as he held her, he thought, well, she's so beautiful and she's so gorgeous. Doesn't matter that she's blind. It's okay. She's still our daughter. We will still love her. He was so in love with this. So he brings her home and he shows her to Kirtida. Kirtida is so blissful seeing this. And she takes her in her lap and she's soft like butter, the beautiful curly hair, beautiful beautiful palms, pinkish, and there are interesting symbols on her feet and hands. Very beautiful. That I'd never seen anything like this before. But they don't. But now it's not the thing. Now they have a daughter. They need to take care of her. And at the time, everybody knew that Kamsa had this plan because Kamsa was afraid to be killed by the prediction of some child, the child who will be born in that area. So the thing was that the Putana, the mystical witch, she was consuming a baby's flesh and drinking baby's blood. So she was a Kamsa's servant. So Kamsa sent her and said, pick up and kill every baby who is born between day one to the age one, like any newborn. So because they were afraid, nobody wanted, this new baby girl. So they hid it. They didn't say to no one. And also she was blind. They didn't really want to, they didn't want people to like see these things, but they were so happy. So they hid her and didn't show and didn't say to anybody, very secretly. Meantime, great sage Narada Muni, who knows every universal affair, who is always expanding the glories of Radha and Krishna's pastimes, who is personification of pure prema to Radha and Krishna. He already knew that at about the noontime, 12 p.m., 12 noon, at the day of Brahma, on the 28th cycle of kalpas, kalpa, which consists of 4 yugas, in on 28th cycle at the end of Dwapara Yuga, which will be around noontime of Lord Brahma. By this time, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna in his original form, Goloka form, will come to the Earth planet. So Narada already knew that this is going to happen. So he was thinking, so he did his calculation. He opened his Astro Sage Kundali, astrological calculator, and he started counting. The time is right. Okay, the place he calculated. He saw the Putana roaming around. He understood that it must be the place. There's a Kamsa. It all matches. So he went to the Braj area, and then he realized he saw around there were only two families which were standing out: is Nanda's family and Vrishabhanu's family. And so far, there was no news, so anybody newborn. So he thought, well, but then it must be Vrishabhanu. If the girl should be born, there had already been children born. Boys were born already, so that must be Vrishabhanu. So he went down, zoomed into the ravel, knocked on the door, and as soon as the door was opened, the servants saw Narada Muni, and everybody knows Narada Rishi. It's a great thing, great news. Something is happening. Narada Muni has arrived. So the servant immediately ran inside the palace and said, Narada Rishi is here. So everybody came to greet him, the Brajabasis, the servants, and Vrishabhanu with Kirtida, and they greeted him. They touched his feet. They placed Narada on the throne, served him refreshments. And then when everything subsided, Narada Rishi started. Well, he didn't want to show any, signs that he knows anything. He didn't want to scare them. And also he realized that because of their emotion, because of their love, and because of influence of Yoga Maya, they wouldn't know who is Radharani. They would just feel it's their daughter. They don't know what Narada knows. They don't know that this is the whole original expansion of the goddess from whom millions of billions of Lakshmis come out, and that the Radharani is like their daughter. He didn't want to ruin their bhava or interfere. So he didn't want to ask or be or say anything. So he was very, very subtle. So he started inquiring and he asked, so how was everything? Any news in the village? Has anything happened recent? How are all you doing? And they say, everything is fine. Everything is beautiful. No, nothing new happened. Nothing is going on. So he sees that they're not saying anything, but he says, he feels that there is something. So he says, so how many children do you have? He says, Vrishabhanu says, well, I have one son. Narada says, only one son? He says, only one son. Only one son. Only one son. Only one son, Kirtida, only one son. Shrida, only one son. And then Narada Muni said, tried here and there, they don't say. And then Narada Muni said, okay, I'm happy that you're happy. Maybe I should go. So as he started walking around, he looked around at Vrishabhanu and he saw that Vrishabhanu's face was a little sad. And Vrishabhanu was thinking, well, we shouldn't lie to the sage, but we shouldn't also reveal, because there is a putana can kill. We should not say to anybody, and our girl is blind. We don't really want to go public with all this. And I shouldn't lie to the sage, but I should save my daughter. So he was on this double mind. Narada Rishi looked at Vrishabhanu and said, I see your face is very sad. Are you lying to me, maybe? Only when the person is not honest, the honest person, when he is forced to not reveal something, he will have a heavy heart. And the face is an indicator of the heart. So looking at your face, I see that you have a heavy heart. And then Vrishabhanu said, okay, you're right. I have a heavy heart. I didn't know how to say it, but the situation is such, we were afraid for the safety, but actually we have to. And Narada Rishi immediately felt the surge of ecstasy rising because he knew this is it. But he started to control himself, control his senses, control his transcendental emotions. He didn't want to show anything. And he said, oh, so nice, so beautiful. Do you want to bring the daughter out so I can give her Ashirvad? Like I can give her a blessing? And actually Narada Muni wanted to get a blessing by having a darshan of Radhika. But he didn't want to say it this way, so he had to act. He said, I'll just give her a blessing. No, your daughter will be very fine. They said, yeah, we will show. She just has one little problem. She has little one. But you will see. So they bring out tiny Radhika. And when Narada Rishi sees this beautiful, the Haladinish, the personification of Lord's internal potency, his body starts shivering and he composes himself as much as and he starts saying, Bhavantu, and all these blessings, Shanti, Shanti, Bhavatu, and he starts chanting all these prayers and mantras, shouting the blessings, but actually inside his mind, he prays to Srimati Radhika. Munindra Vrinda Vandite, all rishis and munis all over the universes pray to one ray of the light emanating from one of your toenails, from one tiny particle of this light emanating from one of your nails on your feet. All rishis and munis get such a mystical powers that they surpass even Brahmas. They create universes from just touching one tiny particle of light emanating from your tongue. Munindra Vrindavandite. And he prays to her in the mind, but externally he gives blessings. So Narada Rishi, he he tells them, Narada Rishi is very smart. He knows how to arrange things, he knows how to get things done, he knows how to fulfill everybody's desires, transcendental desires, as well as his own transcendental desire. And his own transcendental desire was to get darshan of Kishori, Rupa, Radhika, the original, eternal Kishori forms that bewilders Krishna, Madana, Mohana, Mohini, that eternally controls Krishna, the controller of the Cupid in her original Kishori Roop, which is eternally 14, 15-year-old girl, which eternally resides as a queen of Gokula. He wanted to see that because this is the baby girl, but but he needed somehow to get rid of everybody because mama, papa here, this all can't happen. And also he had to devise a plan how to do this further arrangement. So for the Radha and Krishna's meeting. So then he says, your daughter is blind, but I have a remedy which will make her unblind. Like she will get her eyesight back. But you gotta follow my recommendations to the dot. I'll give you the ingredients which you have to go and buy. From these ingredients, you have to cook these particular dishes. And when you cook, and then he gives this list of ingredients, and ingredients are so hard to find, so tricky, so rare, and the dish list is so complicated and so intricate. So he wrote it as soon as Brishabhanu and Kirtida looked at this list with all their servants. They caught hold of their heads and started running hither and thither. They all left the room running that we have so. So he said, you have to cook these particular dishes in this particular order with these particular ingredients. And when you do this, you have to invite Brajbasis to come to take this feast, including Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya. You have to invite them. And when you invite them and all the Brajbasis and feed them these particular dishes, your daughter will gain her eyesight back. So they got so happy. They can get their daughter eyesight back. And the ingredients are so hard, they forgot about everything. Everybody ran out of the house. They were running like from here to there. Vrishabhanu Maharaj was giving orders. Kirtina went on the kitchen trying to find the ingredients that she has. They forgot all about Narada Muni and just left him in the room where little Radhika was in a cradle. So when everybody ran away, then Narada Rishi folded his hands and he started praying to Radharani, please show me your Kishori Roop. So then Radharani flew. She manifested, she flew in the air in her beautiful Kishori Roop, standing on this lotus. It's a very famous painting that everybody worshipped in Braj. In this lotus flower, she stands with her palms down like this, like a beautiful hands down beside her, with the palms facing down and like head little tilted, with a beautiful smile, with a beautiful skirt like this, in a lotus flower, standing like that. And not only she manifested her Kishori Roop, she brought all her Ashtasaki, Lalita Vishaka, Tungavidya, Chitraleka, Champakalata, Rangadevi, Sudevi, all of them, they have showed Narada their beautiful forms of Kishori, 14-year-old girl. And Narada Rishi was in awe, and he fell in trance, he fell in samadhi, he lost his consciousness, and he started rolling on the floor like a madman, losing his consciousness. And then they were all hanging in this air. And then by the time has passed, and Narada Muni wouldn't come out of his trance. So Radharani looks at Lalita, Lalita looks at Radharani, and Lalita goes to Narada Rishi and starts saying, hey, wake up, Rishi Muni. We have to go back to our normal forms. This can't be here. You can't be in this state. Everybody will come back. We can't show anything. You have to forget about what you see. Go back to, stop rolling on the ground. Compose yourself. So Narada Rishi composes himself just before the Vrajavasis enter the room so that nobody sees anything and knows anything. And Radharani and Lalita Saki and everybody who were all also born, some of them already in different Gopas families, and they disappeared. And And Radharani went back. So then Narada Rishi said goodbye to everybody, and then the day has come on a particular auspicious date, few days after Radharani's birth. That invitation was extended to Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj with all other Brajabasis to come to have a feast, because they didn't say that the daughter was born, because they didn't want to say announce it too loudly because of the afraid of Kansa. But as they entered, they said, we have a surprise. So they went and showed beautiful Radhika. They said, but the only thing, she's blind, but we got a blessing that everything will be fine. So as the ladies gathered with Kirkida and started like gossiping, speaking all the lady stuff, and men went with Vrishabhanu Maharaj speaking all the whatever talks about cows and business they have in their separate quarters. Meantime, the baby child, which Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda brought with them, their beautiful son, which was 1 year and 15 days old. He was born 1 year and 15 days before Srimati Radharani. Meantime, unattended by his parents, he already learned crawling. That's the only thing he knew. So he crawled, attracted by the strong force of ecstasy, which was coming from that room where the cradle of this Radharani was standing. Krishna, unbearably attracted by that strong force, desire, which pulled him into this room, crawled on his little baby feet and baby hands, pushed himself, crawled to the cradle, caught hold of the legs of the cradle, keeping like holding it by edges of this, pushed himself up, caught the edges of this, pulled his head up, and looked down. And as he looked at this beautiful face of Srimati Radharani, at this moment, Srimati Radharani opened her eyes, and her beautiful blue, dark blue lotus, huge eyes opened, and Krishna's beautiful, huge lotus eyes looked directly into Radharani's eyes, and Radharani's eyes looked directly into Krishna's eyes. And it said that there was so much love between those eyes. There was so much love flowing between those eyes, and so much love was flowing between those eyes. It said, as Dinabandhu Prabhu says, it was so thick, you could put your finger into this and take the piece of it. So much love flowing between those eyes, looking directly at each other, that both babies started crying and laughing, and so much ecstasy happened. And the grown-ups heard this laughter and cry, and they all ran to the room, and to their happiness, they saw that the girl is not blind anymore. And they caught the baby Krishna on their hands, left, they took Radharani, and now they saw the girl has, and that was actually the first meeting of Radha and Krishna. And it's beautiful because that was one of the most intense meetings, because that's the moment when Radha, at this point, she looked directly, openly. Usually, Radharani in Braj, she never looks at Krishna directly with her full eyes. And it's at Kataksh. Radharani's eyes, the way she looks at Krishna is Kataksh. Kataksh means from the corner of the corner of the corner of the corner of her eyes. And when because she can't look directly, because she's always surrounded by her elders, she can never look directly. And she always praises Krishna's friends, and everybody else says, how fortunate all of you, you can gaze at Krishna directly. I can never have, look at him directly. And she always secretly looks, hidingly has to look behind her veil. And when this one Kataksh, for this Kataksh, great rishis and Lord Shiva prays for the half of the inch of this merciful Kataksh sidelong glance of Srimati Radharani. So when one Kataksh of Radharani falls, looks at Krishna, when this Kataksh from the corner of her eyes shoots an arrow at Krishna, Krishna loses his composure. He starts playing a flute, but he drops the flute and he thinks the flute is in his hands, and he starts playing, but he just blows the air. Crazy things happen from just one Kataksh. Imagine what to speak if Radharani looks at him full, with her huge, full, the eyes directly into his. This is unheard of. If she does that, Krishna will not recover ever. But their first meeting, when she was when she just opened her eyes, the intensity of her separation, it said that Radharani didn't want to see anything except Krishna. Until she see Krishna, she didn't want to open her eyes. And that first meeting was so intense because that was the deepest, most beautiful, most deepest, with the full eyes, not the kataksh. Their eyes met and their heart met and melted. So, and actually, as my Gurudev, Srila Dhanurdhara Maharaj, always instructs me and gives me a different, all I know is from what he sends me to read, to listen, or to learn. So as one of his instructions was for me to listen to different elevated Vaishnavas and to read different books. So, and as I do this, I get to learn all the stories which Gurudev asks me then to narrate. So by his order, I have also heard from Narayan Maharaj a beautiful description of how to understand Radha and Krishna, which I want to share. He said that, which I loved so much. He said that Krishna is like a musical shop owner, and the musical instruments in the shop are his emotions. His emotions which are beautiful, vivid, which he wants to experience. But he's a shop owner and he doesn't play those instruments. So those instruments has to be played. So to invoke for him to experience these emotions, or the instruments has to be played. So there should be a relation. So there should be and he, as the owner of the shop, doesn't know how to play all this variety of hundreds of thousands of different millions of instruments in the shop, and he's just an owner. And then Radhika is an expert musician who knows how to play all of these instruments. And by playing, when the instruments sound this, then when somebody touches the instrument, then it invokes, then it produces the sound. So there should be an expert to play. So only in relationship, Krishna can experience that what is dormant in him, all the variety of ecstasies which belong to him, but he cannot. Somebody has to invoke. So there should be a relationship. So he's a shop owner and the expert musician who can play each and every instrument which are in his shop, which he owns, is Radhika. And it's said that the two play all of these instruments sometimes simultaneously. Radhika expands herself into millions and billions of Sakhis in the Goloka Vrindavan. That's all of the gopis are just her expansions. And all of the Sakhis are just an expansions which to create this orchestra of playing the different instruments to invoke variety of different emotions. It's also said that different Sakhis like Ashta Sakhis and all, even Chandravali and every Sakhis are expansions. Radharani, she is like a mine. She has unlimited, like she knows how to play every instrument. She knows every melody. And she has this unlimited qualities which invoke different emotions of Krishna. And all other Sakhis and all other gopis in the spiritual world are different expansions of one or few of her different qualities or characters, which sometimes Krishna wants to enjoy individually, a one particular quality or two. That's why he meets with this gopi, or Radharani arranges with this. But when he's with Radharani, it's like a volcano of everything simultaneously. It's like bewildering. It's like everything at once happening in there in her alone. But then individually, each gopi, she represents, she carries, that's her own expansions, her energies, all the gopis. Then Krishna enjoys individually sometimes different qualities of Srimati Radhika. And it said that Krishna Atmaram, we all heard that Atmarama means self-satisfied. The quality of Bhagavan or God, that why he's God, because he doesn't need anything. He's self-satisfied. And it said that this self-satisfaction of Krishna, self, comes from his self, and the self, his self, that which is making him Atmaram, self-satisfied, that satisfaction of him from his own self, from his own being, that being of his being is Radhika. And only because there is energy, there is Radhika in him, he is Atmarama. But to enjoy this and to actually, the next quality which surpasses the quality of Atmarama is Parararama. Parararama is the one who then wants to enjoy that self. And for that, he needs a relationship. And that's where he becomes two. That's where Radhika comes and forces, and that and this and in the in his in this in when Radhika his self, when Radhika starts to when he starts to enjoy that relationship with his own qualities through Radhika, and he becomes the Pararama, and only in Pararama the quality of Krishna there is rasa. In Atmarama there is no rasa; it's just dormant. But in Pararama he actually relishes the rasa. That's when Radhika they become two, and there is Srimati Radharani, and then Srimati Radharani creates all the variety, and then Srimati Radharani engages each of every one of us. She produces as a guru. She comes and she engages each and every one in different services. She actually distributes the millions of services to be engaged in this lila. That's the position of Radhika. She manifests that Raso Vaisaha, the quality of Krishna. Then everybody can join. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. So I don't know what else I can say. So maybe I'll finish with just what I just read today from Aindra Prabhu, just to finish up. That Aindra said that we should see women as Radha's agents, as if a beautiful woman, as Radha's agents. As a beautiful woman is present, you should think that she's one of Radharani's agents that has come to check you. If you look at a beautiful woman and think or look at her in the mood of sense enjoyment, she will then report to Radharani and tell her that this devotee is not yet ready to go back to Godhead. That's how Aindra Prabhu used to say. And it's not only for a males, I would add it's also for a females. When females, because we all have the Purusha mentality, no matter we're women or men, we all have this enjoyer mentality, try to enjoy lustful. So when women see other women, it's a test. If women seeing other women want to compete, put down, or envy other women, then the Radharani's servants will report to Radharani that this particular woman, a devotee, is not yet ready to go to the spiritual world. That's how we should see the beauty of this world and beautiful women of this world and men.
Haribo. Thank you, Leela. Wow. Leela, you're like a spiritual volcano. That was great.
Thank you, Gurudev. All by your mercy.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe too. I spoke with Leela. Maybe you can also come in January, and then we're going to probably do a retreat next summer because some people can't get away except in the summer. So we'll do a retreat. So Maninda Vinda Vandate Triloka Shoka Harane Prasana Vaka Pankajena Kunja Bhuvilasani Vajendra Banu Nandani Vajendra Suna Sangate Kripaka Taksha Bhajana
Kada karishyasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajana.
Ashoka Viksha Valeri Vakada Manda Pastate Pravala Vala Pala Prabharanangri Parabarash Paratare Prabhuta Sampadale
Kada karishyasi hamam kripa kataksha bhajana.
Thank you for that, Leela. Thank you for that so much. Anybody have any reflections they like to share on the class, something they remembered?
Hare Krishna. This is Radha Priti.
Haribo.
Haribol. It is so wonderful spending the morning with you all. Thank you so much. And thank you, Leela, for that wonderful pastime. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Is that okay? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So when Leela told the story about when Radharani's parents asked to have the goddess of fortune as their child, I was just kind of comparing it to when King Nabi asked to have the personality of Godhead as his child, and he was kind of materialistic. And then it ended up when Vishnu came, the Brahmanas were kind of like embarrassed for asking for such a thing. And then we learn in the Nectar of Instruction or Nectar of Devotion that it's like Mayavadi philosophy to ask for that. So I'm just kind of trying to conceptualize the two. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just waiting for Dandar Maharaj for Gurudev to. I heard. I don't know where he's.
Oh, okay. It just sounded like in your story.
Just waiting.
Okay. Yeah, it just sounded like in your story, like it was like a
You
good
know,
thing.
I know I heard the difference in the moods, that there is a very subtle difference in the moods, that there are the moods when that was same with Vasudeva and Devaki, when they wanted to have a personality of Godhead as their son or the daughter, and it was a little bit mixed with their, you know, like, I want to have God as my son. There was a little bit of the personal desire involved, like a great, not just, and in their mood of those original parents of the Kirtida and Vrishabhanu, they just wanted to serve. They didn't have the desire to that ego to that we want to be a parents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay.
They just wanted to
I just want to, because,
serve.
yeah, we kind of have to finish it. So just a few people. Thank you so much, Leela and Madhupriti. And anybody just like to say hello, just so we get our community? You can say hello to myself, Leela, the devotees. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Leela. Nice to meet you, and it was fascinating hearing your story.
Isn't it
The story.
great?
It was very fascinating. Thank you so much.
She was my assistant to take people around in Vrindavan. Yeah. Anybody else? Say hello.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, Kota Gopinath here. Great class, and Leela, what a story. Can't wait to see you in Vrindavan.
Okay. Haribo, anybody else?
Haribo.
Hey, Krishna Maharaj, thank you for class. And Leela, thank you for your pastime.
It's great, right? We had it's good for this day to get something really substantial in the morning. Hey, Malata Radha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for class. And Leela, that was just so wonderful. Thank you so much. This was like an amazing class. I want to hear it again and again. And also I wanted to share that today it's been eight years since we married in the ashram, Maharaj.
Since you what?
Since we married.
Oh, wow. Okay. Congratulations. Haribo.
Oh, nice. It's right. 8 years, and it's Ashtami, also 8.
That was in Colombia. Yes. Good. Anybody else say hello?
Krishna Maharaj, it's Gopi Gita. Thank you for class. Thank you for Leela too. Great story.
Right. We want to be nourished like this. Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna. I could really relate, Maharaj, to what you were saying in the beginning about feeling without seeing, like Krishna knowing. And I think that, a mother's love, you sometimes know something before you're told it. So I really appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you this evening. We're going to have Radha at Krishna Kumari's place. Good. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for class. Thank you, Leela, for sharing the stories. It was really wonderful. It's a great morning.
Nice to see you, Yvette. Anybody else? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Kishori Radha. Happy Radhastami.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I had a list. I saw all the participants. We had a nice group there. Okay, thank you all for coming.